I think this is a decent way to still acquire decks if your intent is only digital. Hello and welcome to the Forgeborn Finishing School. Casey, Kid, and Core here. We'll be analyzing Forgeborn battles to help take your game to the next level. Hey everyone, welcome back for our second video this week. We released an out-of-cycle video earlier with Aaron from Grey Vikings Game, who came on to kind of pull back the curtain, share some of the secrets of the secondary market, and how he is really enabling the community to acquire decks. The last week or so, and even just a couple days ago, Greg, we saw people in the Discord communities looking about how to acquire decks, how to really kind of get jump-started into the game. And so we're going to sell some of our decks. The sale's going to go live today, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. You know, we have a lot of decks. We can kind of release some of them. The current plan is not to get out of the game, so we'll still be here making content, playing games. You'll see us in the lists. So we're just excited for this sale, and that's what this episode is going to be about. We're just going to showcase some of the decks that you could potentially acquire in this sale, or some of the accessories that we've been able to pick up along the way as well. So we will get into that in just a little bit. But before we do, 1 week away from FuseFest, that is going to be kicking off on Saturday the 27th in St. Paul, Minnesota. We've been plugging this for a long time. Super excited just to get this thing going. So as always, link in the description below. 35 players currently signed up. If you have a chance to get up to Minnesota for this event, it is going to be an absolute blast. It's all about community, hanging out, trying out the new set, playing games. So with that being said, the last video earlier this week, we kind of went through the schedule of events, and you'll see that in the link as well. So I'm going to kick it over to Greg. He's going to talk about the sealed event that you can expect to see tomorrow and get your hands on some digital decks.
Potentially, yeah. Before we go on there, again, on the FuseFest, looking forward to everybody that's going to be heading out there. And if you're thinking about heading out there or wanting to head out there, we do have in the SBE Discord, there is a thread on FuseFest. And so we are planning to get together just, again, as a community on the Friday night before, if you're coming in early, get some food, drinks, chit chat, possibly play games. So check that out as well. And then, this Saturday, there'll be a digital client sealed release event starting at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time for the online. Church is hosting that, head of OP for Stoneblade Entertainment, is for Solforge Fusion. And so the way that's going to work, and he's asking everybody to get on a little bit earlier, like 30 minutes. And what you want to do is, if you're signed up for it, is you reach out to him saying that you're there, and he's going to send you out 4 codes, I believe, or maybe it's 1 code. But he's going to send out some codes to unlock 4 sealed decks that you'll then use to build your fuse for the tournament, and you'll play through that. And looking over the description here, if you go at least 3 and 2 out of it, so it sounds like it's going to be 5 rounds. If you win 3 games, you'll be able to keep those decks. And then he's also going to have door prizes for digital codes for half decks that'll be handed out as well. So it should be a lot of fun. I plan on being able to jump in there this Saturday, so looking forward to that. It looked like we have 48 people signed up, so that's pretty awesome. Some good numbers there. Should be a lot of fun. And then the other thing I want to do before we kind of get into some of these decks here as well, I know there's a lot of new players coming into the game with the release of the early access on Steam. And so if there are certain topics or questions you have on the game that you want us to cover, please leave them in the description down below, and we'll look at those and see if we can either answer them or make a video in more detail on those questions if we are able to. So put those in the description, and we'll move on to this for newer players going into this deck lists. We're doing something a little bit differently than GVGs. Again, we really think Aaron helping out with this to try to get these out to the community and out to newer players. And part of that is we're also putting a remarks section on there for a lot of the decks. So for the more, again, I think we kind of mentioned this in the last video, but for more experienced players, will be able to use the deck manager here to kind of sift through it, but for some of the newer players or people getting into the game, we've kind of put our remarks in there to try to more easily guide people to certain decks or deck archetypes available to you without having to do all the searching and looking. So Ryan, I'll kick it back over to you.
Yeah, let's we'll pull it up here and just kind of take a quick look at the rules again. The rules of the sale. Again, huge shout out to Great Viking Games. They really helped us kind of set this up, as well as provided their expertise in kind of establishing a sale of this size, which, to be fair, is much smaller than Great Vikings Games. And it sounded like Aaron said they might run a sale a week or two after this one, so I do want to make sure that everyone's aware of that as well. So there will be more decks coming on the market, and they always have a great selection as well. So here's kind of our sale. It's gonna end at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time on the 24th of April, and we'll get into it. But what we've kind of lined up is if you're gonna get 1 to 2 decks, it's gonna be $5 for shipping. You see it scales up to $10, and then if you spend over $100, it's gonna be free U.S. shipping. So if you purchase enough decks, it's gonna come out of the cost of the decks for shipping, and then. One reason I think we mentioned it the video earlier this week, we really wanted to kind of kickstart this and get it going really soon, is that we know that there are quite a few active players that are going to be going to FuseFest, and we'll both be at FuseFest. So if you purchase the decks before then, we'll just have them ready to hand off to you in person at FuseFest in St. Paul. Save yourself some shipping. And then, international sales. We're not against that by any stretch, but that is going to just take a little bit of extra coordination. All we do is we ask that you reach to us on Discord. We'll figure it out, and then international shipping, you'll pay the difference essentially. But we're not against that. And then one other thing I did want to throw out is there's been a lot of players asking about getting solely digital decks. If you don't want the physical deck at all, if I were you, that doesn't limit you from buying physical decks. You just don't need the physical copy. I don't know what we'll do with the physical copies, but if you want to buy them digitally, by all means, you can buy the decks. We'll send you the scan URL, and you'll own them into your collection, and they'll be your decks. And if you tell us you don't want to pay for shipping, I think that's on you, and that's okay. I think this is a decent way to still acquire decks if your intent is only digital. So we are going to, in the marketplace, a channel of the Stoneblade Discord, we'll create a thread. So we'll drop this spreadsheet, and everyone will have view rights to it. I've participated in these sales before, so I highly recommend that you just open it, instantly make yourself a copy. That way you're going to have your own copy in your own Google Drive. That's going to allow you to fully edit, search, filter, do whatever you want to do. I found that's the easiest typically for myself. But in that thread that I mentioned, you see on the right-hand side of the screen here, example claim. You're just going to @CaseyKid or @Core. Claim, and then the name of the deck. If you're claiming one deck, that's all you have to do. Bam, that's yours. All the sales are based off the timestamps in Discord. So if I try to claim a deck and then Greg claimed a deck 2 seconds before me, it's going to show up in Discord first. If you have bad internet and something kind of gets in your way there, that's unfortunate. But whatever hits Discord, that's where it's going. And then if you have multiple items you want to buy, then you can put them in the same message, of course, but please don't edit the message and then add them later. Just make a new message if you didn't add it at that point. So if you knew you wanted to get the Broiling Strength Tutors, 2 Chaos Necrim minions, and the FuseFest Scorchmane, you can put that all in one message just like it's shown there. Or if you do a second message, it's fine. @CaseyKid, claim the Broiling Strength Tutors, enter. 10 minutes later, you say, I want those minions. @CaseyKid, claim 2x Chaos Necrim minions. Should be pretty simple. Just again, stress, please don't edit the messages. So it's just kind of an easy record for us to keep sorted and make sure we get things to those who claimed them. So then first come first serve, and what we will try to do is, as sales are coming in, we're going to try to mark those sales as taken away. We'll highlight them red. We're going to put in who purchased them. In the case of the accessories, the minions and stuff like that, we'll update the available numbers. We'll try to be on top of that at least for the first day or 2 days, absolutely as much as we can. But please understand we have work, jobs, family, So at a minimum, we'll compile those every 24 hours. I'm sure we'll be on top of it way more than that. But the deck tier level, you want to put out there, some of these decks have been used. So when you open up the deck URL, you'll be able to see its tier level. If you go over to status, you'll be able to see the events it's take place in. so you know the exact status of the decks that you're after. And then one thing that's unique to this sale, since this is two individuals doing a personal sale, offers will be considered during the last 24 hours of the sale. So let's say you're very interested in a deck, but you think that's $20 outside of your comfortable price range. Hey, we get it. We totally understand and support that. So up until 24 hours of the sale, anyone else will be able to buy it at that full price. But if it doesn't sell within 24 hours, there'll be a column that says, if it's Casey Kid or Core owns it, you can just send them a message on Discord and throw any offer you want, and we'll consider it, and then we'll just kind of work it out that way. Last thing of note is that all payments will be processed via Venmo, or we can accept PayPal if you specifically request a PayPal invoice, and then we can set that up, send it to you. But most of this will just work out through Discord messages. As soon as the sale ends, we'll reach out to your Discord handle in a direct message to say these are the decks that you've signed up to buy and the accessories. This is the total amount. This is the estimated shipping, or the final shipping, probably if there's no mats or international stuff like that. And then we'll just work out payment like that. Once you make payment, we'll send it on shipping. The one thing that I will probably say is there is the potential that these don't ship until after FuseFest. We will try to get everything shipped out as soon as we can, but also just keep in mind, maybe give us a little bit of a leeway till after FuseFest, because there's a lot going on leading up into that. So, and then the deck ends, I think, 2 days before FuseFest festivities kind of kick off. So we'll try to get what we can out, but there it is. So anything I kind of missed on the rules there, Greg? Went through it. Nice overview.
No, I think you got it covered pretty well. Yep.
Okay. So Greg, let's talk about some of these decks. So this is kind of the format here. We are going to probably add another column for who purchased the deck, but we kind of have that hidden right now so that it's just easier to digest and see in this format. Again, huge thanks to Grey Viking Games. They allowed us to use their pricing program, and we talked about it earlier this week, and now they're allowing us to show our disparity on what we believe the price differences are, which is huge, right? This is a business that obviously, hopefully they learned some stuff from this as well, but they're really, really pulling back the curtains and allowing the community to see what is going into this process. And so what you'll see is, and this is a good one to start off, Greg. You mind if we start off with your RSE deck here?
Yeah. Let's kick it off there for.
All right, I'll let you fully talk about the deck, but I'm just gonna finish out here with, so in Grey Vikings Games pricing program, it run it through, it looks through all the decks, it provides a bunch of scores. We kind of talked about that earlier this week, and it generated that said this deck was valued at $159. That's what that GVG price column means. The price column behind it is the actual price that is going to cost. Okay, so I want to make that very clear that you understand the price that you're paying on that deck would be $235, not $159. Then we have the price disparity column to show you, the purchaser, exactly what the difference is between what Grey Viking Games, the secondary market premier leader, I would say, says this deck is worth $159. We're saying it's worth $235, and that disparity is $76. Now there is a very good reason for that, but I'm gonna let Greg go over his deck.
Yeah, so if we take a look at, so for one, yeah, we again talking with Aaron as well, and he had a similar deck sell for I think just over 200 on the last GVG sale, and again that was because his deck was also foil in that case. So when they're running the GVG, when the program is running the GVG base price, it doesn't take into account. It doesn't know that it's foil or a sketch deck or a foiled sketch deck, which. Or an arbiter deck, which we have all of those in this sale as well. So if you're a fan of collections or special things, those are available as well. So for instance, in the Nova deck that sold 3 weeks ago, not maybe at this point, 4 weeks ago, it was also a full deck, so it had a higher price as well. So this is a very strong Rumble Spark Energy deck, and it's a full foil. So not only is the deck foil like a standard foil, because this was a UC prize, the Forgeborn is foil, and the Rumble Spark Energy itself is foil, which normally you won't get. So it's kind of also one of the reasons why there's the higher markup on there, and also just because this is probably up there in the top echelon, I think, of Rumble Spark energy decks that you see. And what it's got going for it is probably the biggest thing is the elementalist ritual in there is part of it. It also has an aggressive elemental and a breakthrough elemental as the lightning tamer, which is extra bodies with an elemental. Stampeding Mongosaur is just a great utility card, help clearing lanes. And then Mystical Teacher also allows you to trigger as well with the elementals that you have in play. Firestorm is a very good niche situational card, can save you. Sometimes not always going to be used, but you're going to have that in the deck. And then Lightning Charge again is another way to bump one of your elementals up to hit damage. For instance, dropping the Lightning Tamer, they don't cover the elemental that's in the defended back row, right? Because you dropped it off Forge. Second action, Lightning Charge it up forward, get a lot of damage in, and then triggering the Rumble Spark, right? And that's just all within this deck. And the Coal Rock, I think, works well in this deck as well. Blast Wave pairs very well with Elementalist Ritual. Lightning Speed works really well with trying to trigger RSE or doing damage. And then Earthen Fist is just kind of can end games kind of card by hitting that off Forge, clearing a lane with the guy that's already up front. But it's a good deck. It's solid. You got to find the rights. You still got to find the right pairing for it. But as far as RSE decks that are going to be available, this was going to be really hard to find. So that's kind of why it's priced above the GVG. When you see that, it doesn't take into account that it is a full foil, which is over a standard foil, and it's a lot of fun to play.
Yeah, we had the pleasure of actually sitting in this room together here, and you opened this on stream, and like it blew my mind. This is phenomenal. Every card plays well with something else in there, so extremely strong. Rumble Spark energy deck, like you said, definitely top tier. I would put it top 3, I think, for sure. And then could climb higher. It's very solid. Just like the aggressive elemental, the breakthrough elemental, the multiple body element, like the teacher, and it has 3 mages with the Flame Sculptor seal. Sometimes you see the seal and you say, I'm not sure if I'll get that off. This one has 3 mages. Like it kind of hits all the blocks. So there's that one. So this is kind of a fun deck we'll talk about here. This is the only deck in the collection that it's not gonna have a claimable like a URL you can open.
There's gonna be 2 more. There's gonna be 2 more. Yeah, I have two sketch decks. They may be foil sketch. They're at least sketch decks that will need to be. You need to file a support ticket for if somebody does buy them. Okay. But I have, so putting that out there, they are marked in the remarks column for that. Nothing is as counting as this deck.
Yeah, this one doesn't. You won't need a support ticket for this one. I have scanned the QR code. I just haven't hit the claim button. I know when I saw this, I've played with it a couple times on Tabletop Simulator. That's a cool thing that it allows you to do is play decks without claiming them. If you weren't aware, so you can play test decks in Tabletop Simulator that way. But this is a deck I own. As soon as I opened it, I knew its potential and kind of wanted to save it. I only say that because I do remember the first time I got the Betrayer Omni. And I think an even cooler moment for me than opening it was claiming it. And not all players are going to have the same feeling that I do. But knowing every time I look back in that deck, I did sell that deck to somebody else after I got to play with it enough times. But now I know that the claim date that's in there is the date that I claimed it, right? That was my hands. I claimed it. The date's there. And so I guess I just kind of wanted to save that moment maybe for someone else, Greg, in this deck. Mm-hmm. And if it doesn't sell, then I'll happily probably put a claim date on it. But there's a couple cool cards in this deck. And so to show those cards, so it does have the Betrayer Necrim Krogius, which in and of itself makes it very interesting. Another card that, back when I did the highly synergistic cards where you have a Forge modifier and a base creature, and those 2 things are very synergistic, which make up some of the most powerful cards in the game, like think Furious Shardback. I made an episode a long time ago that was talking about just those types of cards, and one of those is in this deck. And it is, got a lot of light glare, the Vampiric Reaper. So Every time the Vampiric Reaper comes into play, it instantly deals 2 damage, or deals damage to the opponent's life, and you gain life based off of that. And then the Reaper's ability says when one of your creatures damages the enemy player, give it additional attack. So it's always coming on the board with that beefed up attack, which makes it very, very strong. The level 1
Weekend.
comes on the board as a 6/4, and it's also buffing all your other creatures if they're damaging. Like,
Weekend was putting me through some pain with the Vampiric Reaper.
yeah, it can get out of hand. And then there's one other card that also has its own like self-solving puzzle in this deck. So there's just 2 of these cards that kind of do that. And this one is the, let's see if I can avoid the yeah, this is very bad. I apologize, but the Tormenting Banshee, and that essentially says when it comes on the field, you get to destroy an enemy minion, and then the Banshee's base creature ability says when an enemy creature is destroyed by this, deal X damage to the enemy player. So not only are you destroying an enemy minion, but you're also damaging the enemy player. And if your Vampiric Reaper's on the board, then your Banshee's just getting stronger. I've played this deck. It's an immense amount of fun. So when you see it in this list here, all the cards are listed. So that's, you're not going to be able to see it.
You're not going to talk about the shambling in there too?
There, I got to leave some things, Greg. I got to leave some things. There's a Shambler. There's a really cool creeper in the deck. You probably saw it if I scrolled by. I don't want to give all the secrets. It is Cersei. It's not the perfect Cersei, but it is a very good Cersei. So I will say it's got Army Commander at level 1, right? Everyone probably wants to see 3 and 4. That is the best version. But my gold deck has Army Commander level 1 Cersei, and I tell you that it isn't as powerful as the other 2, but it is underrated. It has a very strong ability to keep you on curve and keep you moving along. So it's a very fun deck. I'm excited about that one. Let's move into another deck. Greg, you wanted to talk one of the Shambling Shamblers, I think. We have 3 Shambling Shamblers that are up for sale here.
We got 3 Shambling Shamblers. We have them all marked at the same cost. And again, we think Shambling Shambler is great. It's a lot of fun to play when it pulls off, you know. And so it'll be interesting to see how these 3 sell compared to each of them. But the Sowing Rotting Roof Horde, it's pretty fun because again, a lot of people just probably disagree. Soul Siphon at level 1. It's not the greatest. In this deck, it doesn't pan out as much, but it does have the AC4 in there, and you can still use the Soul Siphon to some effect with the Camouflage Fiend. Plus, if you're running this with a Mantis, which is what I tend to do, being able to just Mantis kill itself, turn something into a 5/5, works great. It's got a ghoulish creature, which is really good if you're able to get that playing and going. Or even just as another option for not even playing it and having it as an AC4 option or a Mantis 4 option. If you got other things already on curve, right? If you're already playing your Shambling Shambler on curve. And then Infernal Ritual, another one of those cards that can end games as well. We've kind of talked about it in multiple episodes. It's always great to look at, or use, I should say. Grave Pad Epidemic, Furix Embrace, good spells. It's just a fun deck. Is it the strongest Shambling Shambler out there? Probably not if you were going for pure Shambling Shambler, right? If you had like a Nyx Nakia that was able to put a lot of bodies out on the board, you could do something. But this gives you a different avenue or option utilizing the AC4. So this pairs really well into a that Mantis Forge Seal style attack, utilizing the AC4 and those options there, especially if you have something else in that Utera deck that you pair it with. So just a fun deck for newer players. If you're looking for something that can be really competitive, this deck has that capabilities to jump up there and do really well. So.
Yeah, and so this is a good point that you kind of talk about. You mentioned the remarks section, and we had this idea come up that, like you said, really experienced players, that are used to the collection manager are going to go in, they're going to filter and search and and do all of the things they want to do, and new players, of course, are going to do that too. But sometimes at the the speed of these things, one thing we thought we could also provide is like our mental notes on the deck, because out of my decks, every single one of them, when I look at them, I know almost by name for my decks. I don't have that many left, roughly about 100 decks. So when I see a deck name, I know exactly what it is, and there's like 5 words that pop into my head that's telling me what to do with that deck. And so the idea is kind of that we're gonna put those notes here for you. So when you see like these 3 Shambling Shamblers, we talk about those for a minute. Like Infernal Ritual, Minion Generation, Forgeborn, Recursion. The next one is Infernal Ritual, Cutthroat, Destruction Synergy. Then the last one we just covered, Army Commander 4, Infernal Ritual, Ghoulish. Obviously, we're both very high on Ritual. Like, we know the decks that have Infernal Ritual versus the decks that don't. That's how good of a card we believe it is. So it's worth keeping an eye on. But then, yeah, all the way through, so you can kind of see our notes. Yeah, Furious Shardback here. We're going to... We're going to add the elemental package to this one. So let's talk about this. We brought it up briefly this week. This is my Furious Shardback deck, and this one's got kind of a fun story. So the Great Viking game price program brought it out to $84. My initial swag through looking at my decks, I said I'm going to drop it just a little bit. And then I apologize if I got to play in the lists. I threw it together with another deck and did 3 matches in the lists, right? Just to like, hey, let's validate, let's make sure this deck is what I think it is, because it had a very high competitive card value score coming out of the Great Viking game program, so I wanted to test it. And I will tell you that I initially not like kind of overwrote the elemental package. So I saw there's 2 spells. I feel like that could be a hindrance, but let's take a look at the deck. Rolling Invoke is surprisingly good in my mind. This is one of those cards that sometimes you're like, I have a bad hand, but at least my worst like card to play is Rolling Invoke, which is 2 damage when you play a spell, or if you don't play a spell, it gets the mobility in front of something and still deal 2 damage. So it's kind of always dealing its damage. But Furious Shardback, for those that aren't aware of this card, this is an absolutely monstrous card. This is one of those cards like Shambling Shambler that its power level alone can shift games. And what it does is it's kind of a board wipe by itself while being a creature on the board. So it really kind of puts Firestorm to shame in some instances. Not as much damage, but basically it comes with the innate base ability. This is one of those self-synergy cards that when this is dealt non-combat damage, deal 2 damage to all enemy creatures. Firestorm's all creatures. Furious Shardback is only your enemies. And activate it, deal 2 damage to this to give it +2 attack. So basically, you get to activate it to increase its attack and trigger its board wiping capability. That's obviously the like AAA star of the deck. But what I found when I was playing this is that like we all know that Teacher has the capability to be pretty good. But I'll tell you, at level 2, with Warbringer Ritual, which you get up to level 2, 2 spell, Sprite Minions, free spell, and Thunder Crash Field, and Lightning Tamer, this can get pretty nasty. In Cycle 2 with the Furious Shardback, the Teacher, you're often wiping boards. And then there's just a couple of small things that add into it, like the Quaking Razor Tooth. When this comes on the board, it triggers your Furious Shardback. So there's plenty of times where I have Furious Shardback in play. Activate it, 2 damage to the whole enemy board. Play the Quaking Razor Tooth, 2 damage to the whole enemy board. Just a lot of nice little strong combinations. And then, also of note, the Invokist doesn't have to be to an enemy creature when you play a spell. So it can hit your Furious Shardback as well. Just a lot of nice little synergies in there. And then the Sunder ability, I think I would have liked Summon the Swarm at Cycle 2 on this, in a perfect world. But having it at 3 is not too shabby. And then actually at Cycle 2, Gale Surge is really nice in this deck because this deck is shutting games out pretty quickly. By the end of Cycle 2, your opponent, most of the times, is pretty close to death. Gale Surge can give you that punch to kind of finish it out. So, really fun deck. Furious Shardbacks, even though Common Forge are still very hard to find and much more rare to come on the market. So this one is priced at $84. All right, Greg, which one do you want to jump into next?
Let's take a look here at we kind of already talked about the Betrayer Mantis. Again, we don't need to go into the deck that much. And again, for newer players, may not be as thing. Again, I'm trying to focus more on like helping the newer players in this. So again, sorry for those more experienced or used to our content. This is a little bit different than we normally do. But trying to highlight some of the things for people to look out for play. But the Betrayer Mantis is one of those that if you're just kind of a collector, is kind of a rarity. It could be potential in the future. But the we can look at the Torrent Lords, and I have this marked where GVG had it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a good mage and spell package. So it does probably require finding the right deck for it, but if you enjoy playing Tempest, you got the Flameshaper Savant, the Asari Mecha Mage, the Lightning Tamer, the Uranti Elementalist. So good package of mages. On top of you have the Lightning Brand, which can also trigger a free spell as well. Burnout is a great spell. I really like Burnout. Staff of Varus works well in this deck because it's removal and attack damage for this deck because you have so many mages. Pyre Song can be useful, can be clutch, and then Undeady is always just a good, usually free play. And you could even trigger that yourself using Flamesaver Savant. I've done that before. Just ping one of your own guys if you guys are at full health, and then drop your Undeady as the next play. Right, so you have different options in here. So it's a good mage spell package that you could pair into Necrium or Aloyan pretty easily. You could probably even get away with Utera if your Utera is running Reveler, would work well with this deck as well. So those are just kind of things to look for if you're looking at something of that nature, right? So
one thing I want to jump in on this, I'm glad you brought up Utera. So I have a red deck that's very similar to this, to some degree. That's out there, the greatest Blazing Blasters, but it's a Savant deck as well. And I love pairing Utera with Savant because Utera has like Summoning Council, Lycian Rain, which just drops out level 1 cards like you wouldn't believe. So, if you get your Savant up to level 3 and you manage to avoid playing Summoning Council the entire game and then you drop it, that's 15 damage, right? So yeah. It can be pretty monstrous. And then this has Undeady is also phenomenal with the Savant because if you avoid playing it later on, it's just a free 5 damage when the level 3 Savant comes out. And then another underrated combo that I use in that exact same deck. So this deck's triggering me on a whole lot of levels. I love it. Is most people don't think of this little combination, but Undeady with Uranti Elementalist allows you to get that free spell way more than you would think. Because sometimes you just have a creature floating out of the 1 damage, especially with, Flameshaper Savant, right? If you have Flameshaper Savant on the board, next turn you draw Undeady and Uranti Elementalist. You play any other card in your hand, you ping your Flameshaper Savant, goes to 2 health. Then your next turn is Undeady, Uranti Elementalist, free spell like Staff of Varus. I'm going to buff one of these and nail you for 4 damage because the Savant trigger and the Staff of Varus. Super cool combos in this deck. I love to see this kind of stuff, Greg, and Utera would be a lot of fun with it. Yeah,
and I think of the Aloyan side with Alamancer and its Gizmo generations that blue has. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of just different ways you can take it and different deck pairings you can go into it. So it's a versatile spell package mage deck.
Nice. Actually, yeah, I was just looking at this, thinking about like, hey, what deck should we talk about next? Some of our comments might not be super helpful, and you can blame me. Like RSE Party Time. Okay, that's just what I think of when I see that deck, but it's an RSE deck, so it's a fun one. Let's talk. Maybe we haven't hit a DFD deck. Let's hit this one. This is one that I priced. I think Grey Viking Games nailed the DFD archetype in this instance. Same with your deck. They priced it out. Thought it was accurate, so I think they got an angle on that. This is one of my DFD decks. I actually have quite a bit. Obviously, after we first found Greg's, that sent me off on the crusade to like try to find an equivalent one. Um, Obviously, that's not been possible to this point, but I've been through a lot of them. I've tested a lot of them, played a lot of them. This is actually one of my absolute favorites. The hardest part, it typically is finding the free spells in the Forge Seal Mantis. So this is a much more down-to-earth DFD, but the price also reflects that. So it's a very great deck, and I will tell you, you pair this into the right Tempest or Necrium, and it's a high A tier deck that can take on any S tier in the right draw or the right circumstance. So very competitive deck. It's got the breakthrough that you're often looking for, but this also comes in the package of stealth. This is one of my favorite like DFD carriers. There's plenty of times in this deck I don't even play this till the end of cycle 2, and it'll be the level 1. I'll drop it on the board, drop the Dark Forge Drain, and just send its attack through the roof. It's kind of the goal. The Glowhive Siren is kind of fun. Pack Manus can be surprisingly strong. Can get pretty big by itself without having to DFD itself. Here's some more breakthrough. Swamp Moss Lurker, not a free spell, but a free card, always strong. And then Transcendent Biologist is a multiple creature. So I think earlier this week I kind of talked about I'm always looking for camouflage, breakthrough, multiple creatures, at least to make a good DFD deck. And then obviously trying to play spells and free spells, which it doesn't have a lot of free spells, but it does have Feral Instinct, which can help you trigger out some free stuff. Nice little life gain package. Kind of does it all pretty well. It doesn't do the DFD to the same level as one single broken deck that we've seen in the existence of the meta, but this does it pretty well. I've had a lot of fun with this one. So
yeah, the Feral Instinct is nice. So once you get past level 1, it's, you're able to start utilizing that for spells if you wanted to, and then the Pack Manus is hilariously just, it's in the right circumstance. A lot of times it's just an extra basically creature removal because you're just like, I drop it and now it's a 9/2, right? Or a 7/2, which is usually enough to kill something. And so I like Pack. I like Pack as a trait.
It like Lycian Rain can be, I would say, is a controversial card. Like really good if used correctly, really bad if used incorrectly. I do like it in this deck. If I typically pair this with Tempest or Aloyan and skip past level 1 Lycian Rain. But Lycian Rain's really good with that Pack Manus. I've filled the board many times and then dropped Manus and DFD'd the one they can't block.
That's the trick with DFD. If you can control the lanes and get something unblocked, you can just wreck somebody's day. You're just like, all right, I DFD and off Forge, but I have a guy up front that you weren't able to cover, so I just DFD twice in game.
GG's. All right, I think maybe let's just grab out 2 more. I don't know where we want to go with it.
We'll go over 2 more. I'll go over an Aloyan one. We haven't really covered Aloyan. I think we covered some green in the prior episode. You covered one there. I do have a double rallying deck available that I enjoy playing.
All right.
And my thing is I just never really paired this with a great deck, but the purple, the blue half is a lot of fun. It's pretty good.
Looks like you got it at a 12% deck or price disparity as well. So
$12. Yeah. Again, I think me and Aaron and you had a kind of conversation on double rallying. We've seen it. There may be some more room for growth based on Aaron's analysis and what he's been seeing and playing in the current meta. But I'm not quite there yet, so a little bit of a discount on that. But I like this one. It's a lot of fun if you pair it in the right one. I think really you're looking for a deck to pair this with that has breakthrough and stealth. If you can get those on there, this really helps out. Also, if you can get some mini generation in that deck. So if you're pairing this into Necrium, you would want to look for mini generation and stealth. If you're pairing this into Utera, you have stealth, breakthrough, and mini generation, which is probably the better option, which we usually see with double rallying decks. You might be able to pair this in the Tempest. It'll be a little bit more difficult, but I would probably be looking for a Utera deck for this. What I like about this is it does have a Sculptor in there, which can help you get spells off, which is just free plays, which is always huge. You have the War Rallying, War Charger, Rallying Warden. That's the double rallying part of it. And then Sonic Bursts helps clear boards. Heavy Artillery will pair off much... I don't think a lot of people like it. I like this card. I play a lot of stealth decks a lot of times, and so this always works out for me. And then Aegis Wings, another useful card. So this is a double rattling deck. The Steel Rosetta, I think, is pretty. Let's take a look at the Steel Rosetta here. You got Tinker.
The Steel Rosetta's perfect for a
yeah,
double rallying deck.
You got the Tinker, you got the Enhance, and then you got the Repurpose at the end of it. So
yeah, the Repurpose maybe you could give up, but the Tinker and the Enhance, that's exactly
the
what you're looking for.
Repurpose works really well on this because it is a rallying deck.
Because the rallying, yes, yeah. but the Tinker and the Enhance at 2 and 3.
Yeah,
like
that's what you want with the Steel Rosetta deck. You could in some pairings say, well, maybe for the Repurpose, I'd rather have Inspire, I think is what it's called. Allows you to use the Forgeborn from the other one. So like if you were to pair this with if it had that right, so that would maybe be the change. But this does work in this deck for it, utilizing the Sculptor plus whatever's in there. But yes, you're right. I think I would rather have Inspire if I really wanted to go with it, and that would be dependent upon the deck I paired it with to get that.
Yeah, and I think your hope is the Nova ability that you Wispify a minion, get breakthrough, and the game.
Crush somebody.
One thing I do want to point out that I really like about this deck, Greg, like really, really like, and I'm going to sell this pretty hard because Tinker at level 2 is what you want on Steel Rosetta. And oftentimes what you're looking for in rallying cards are rallying cards that also give you another benefit, right? Like rallying reinforcements, it also gives the things next to them additional stats. But in this one is really cool. Rallying Warden. So you're going to do Tinker. You're going to drop 2 gizmos on the board. So at a minimum, you have an extra robot on the board, right? So when you play Rallying Warden, not only is it getting +2/+2 from the replacement, it's getting +2/+2 from the gizmo, and it's getting +4/+4 from its friend on the other side. So it's getting +8/+8 when it comes on the board. That's pretty monstrous in Cycle 1.
Yeah, he's usually target number 1 for removal when I drop him.
Yeah. So that's really cool. All right. So I'm gonna scroll down here and see. There was one deck I wanted to show.
Squadron of War? Or...
Yeah, you saw it, didn't you? Oh, there it is.
I was just guessing because I know you like that deck.
This is one of my absolute all-time favorite decks. If it doesn't sell, I'm super happy. And so you bring that up. So basically, all the decks I think we own. I think maybe you saved a couple or.
No, I put them all on here. I figured I don't think all of them are going to sell, right? And I will be able to find something I enjoy playing.
Yeah, that's what I want to say because I keep saying like this is one of my favorite decks. So I'm showing you some of my favorites. Like all of our decks are for sale here, but we have enough decks that we're going to find fun ones to play that still exist, right? So like this Squadrons of War, someone might not buy it. And I'll say this. So there's a little bit maybe of a sentimental price. I don't think that's 100% true. But on this deck, the Grey Viking game price is $18. I truly believe that this thing is worth $40. And I have put this through the ringer. I have paired it with Tempest. I have paired it with Uteran. I have paired it with Necrium. My favorite absolute pairing with it is Tempest. But let's take a look at this. This deck is a lot of fun. This catches people off guard. I've played against people, and we've gotten to cycle 2, and I'm getting beat up pretty bad. And I've been asked a question like, what made you choose to fuse this deck? Like, what is this deck supposed to be doing? And then cycle 3 comes along, and it goes into overdrive, and it just takes over the game. And so obviously it needs the partner to do it as well. But so stabilizing drone, probably first and foremost, one of the coolest cards. I think it's the 3rd best drone I've seen. I think Corrupt wins, but that's cheating. And then Suppressing Drone is probably the best, like in Faction Aloyan.
I really love Armored Drone, but I can see why. Yeah, Stabilizing and Suppressing are like the 2 best abilities.
Yeah. So this guy, every game I can, I'm playing it. It's getting to cycle 3, and at level 3, it just plays free cards, which is bananas. Steel Eye Researcher in this deck is pretty strong. I'm a big fan of playing Energy Surge, but again, like I said, I like to pair it into Tempest, and that Tempest generates minions as well. So that's a pretty strong pairing. You've already mentioned Sonic Burst. It's removal. But the thing this deck kind of does is it allows you, when I pair this with a Tempest free spell deck, like I am upgrading all the things I own for the first 2 cycles of the game, and then the 3rd cycle comes along and I'm just playing everything I play as gold, right? Energy Prison. A lot of people will undersell you on this card, but when you're devaluing someone's creature by 7 and upgrading a card, you're just biding your time. Energy Surge, probably one of the early Solforge Fusion most underrated cards that people have, I think, come along to respect quite a bit now. But this is it. This is one of the funnest parts about the deck is the Fit of Rage Betrayer. So the Tempest I paired into does also have its own Fit of Rage. So almost every turn, I'm able to give part of my board breakthrough at any given time, and they definitely get pretty big. And then the Sculptor, you kind of mentioned it before in another deck, helps you play those cards for free. And then Steel Rosetta, this also pairs, this is very similar to your Steel Rosetta with the 2 flipped. I do think that the flipping them would be better, of course, with the Tinker at 2 and the Enhance at 3, but Enhance at 2 is also, it's very good. And so pairs well with the Steel Eye Researcher, pairs well with the idea of leveling up the things you've missed, like if you missed the drone in the first cycle, you use Enhance to get it up to 2, to pop it up to 3, so on and so forth. So yeah, just a very fun all-around deck.
I would say that the Tinker in this one actually, the Tinker at 3 actually works well in this deck. If I was just looking at, looking and reviewing this deck, because you have Aegis Knight, Sculptor, Stabilizing Drone, having those stealth options that you can just be like, and you're going to take another 6 because I dumped it onto a Mega Gizmo, right? And the breakthrough potential as well. I think works out fairly well. Yes, the Enhance isn't quite as good, but a lot of times it's getting what you need done, which is leveling a card you weren't able to, right?
Yep, exactly. Yep. So this is the aptly named Squadron of War. This is one of my funnest decks to wait till cycle 3 and then just flip the board. Which it does it very well.
Which people have probably seen on this, because a lot of times when we're jumping on, you're playing against the AI, or we even just toss a game against us, you're reaching for the war.
yeah. This and the Dinos easily are my 2 most played decks. So if you see me and I'm playing Aloyan, it's either this or DJ Drix. I think I mentioned last episode, like I play 3 decks casually. It's this one. It's my Dinos, and it's DJ Drix, and the DJ Drix is pretty good. So I do put some fun, requirements in. But yeah, so Aloy 2 for 3, Joel, of the decks I've been playing for the last 2 months. That's really it.
Yeah, I've been playing Dinos, which is mostly what I've been playing is Dinos. I've been playing my own version of DJ Drix with the Camouflage Bear. And I've been playing my control deck quite a bit, which is purple blue, but I don't think it's my 3rd most. I think at this point it's probably my jumble of stuff, which is Tempest Necreum.
So I think that's all we'll really go into. This is a nice primer. So if you got a chance, you kind of have an idea of some of the decks that are out there. Remember when this deck sale goes live, it's in the thread. Do the claim and name the decks. It is first come, first served by Discord stamp. So just want to throw that back out there.
Yeah, we also have some accessories that Ryan mentioned as well that we'll be putting out there. We'll have images in there as well, so you can see them. Kind of Kickstarter exclusive stuff. We're still working on some of them, but we'll have that in place before this goes live here in a few hours. And so those are available for people as well to purchase. But again, sorry for the slightly different type of episode. Again, in the comment section below, especially if you're a newer player, let us know what kind of topics or deck or strategies you're interested in. And we're happy to kind of go more into depth into those play styles, or if there's something else you would like us to discuss that we haven't already, or we can at least direct you to if you have a question in the comments. So again, thanks for watching. Anything else you got, Ron?
That's it. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Bye.
Thanks for attending this lesson of the Forgeborn Finishing School. If you like this video, please subscribe, comment, or consider donating to our Patreon account. We look forward to our next lesson.